Hi everyone, I just finished making a new pair of dangling heart-shaped earrings that I think you're going to enjoy making. Let's take a closer look at the earring. Having devoted many of my video demonstrations to mixed media creations in which I often combine wire with paper, I decided that it was time to get back to the basics of jewelry design and create a pair of earrings using wire only. The earrings that are featured in this video are pure wire creations, only wire. To make the hearts, I experimented with a variety of wires, and I encourage you to do the same thing. For the black and for the red earrings, I used coated copper wire that I purchased in a craft store. The blue earrings, or I should say bluish grayish earrings, are made with anodized niobium wire. And since the color is achieved by an electrolytic process, the color is permanent. I even forged the wire after I formed the hearts. I hammered it on a steel block to flatten out the wire and give it a nicer shape. There was no damage at all done to the color. These are not forged. If I attempted to hammer the copper wire that's coated, the coating would come off. Although they're fun to make and colorful, and the wire is inexpensive, you have to be careful when handling them that you don't damage the color with your tools. Wearing is no problem. Once they survive the forming process, they should last quite a while. My personal favorites are the solid sterling silver earrings, formed out of 18-gauge sterling silver wire with handcrafted ear wires. The tools that I'll use to create the sterling silver heart-shaped earrings are a pair of curved nose pliers, a pair of chain link pliers, and a pair of round nose pliers. Although I won't be demonstrating how to make the ear wires in this particular video, I do want to mention that to make them, I used bail-making pliers, and I have a video available for viewing on how to make basic ear wires. A pair of side cutters, my handmade coil making tool. I did hammer the earrings on a steel block. I like what the hammering does to the metal. It gives it a nice distinctive handmade look. It also enhances the shape. You could use a chasing hammer, but I found it easier in this case to use my small ball peen hammer. Much smaller hammer enables you to get into the tiny shape of the earrings. Pair of safety goggles, it's a must. For our basic measuring purposes, I use the self-healing cutting board with ruler gradations. For these earrings, they were made out of sterling silver wire. You can use nickel silver, or as I indicated earlier, you could play around with a colored metal of your choice. Craft places have all types of different wires that are fun to work with. Niobium wire, beautiful material. First, I'm going to cut myself 2 5-inch lengths of sterling silver wire. 5-inch lengths will be used to construct the basic heart shape. Next, I fold the wire in half. Hold it firmly on the ends. Keep it even. And I squeeze it down. Grab onto the apex of the curve with my round nose pliers. Give it a little extra squeeze. I want that to be the bottom of the heart. Since we're making a pair of earrings, let's do it on both sides. Bend it in half. Hold it firmly. Give it a little bit of an extra bend. You could even, if you want, at this point, hold it tight and pull it with your pliers. Lock that into place. Why don't I do it again with this? Using the bail making pliers, and I've used them in other projects where I needed to mark the diameter of the center circles. I've also, as you can see here, carried that center mark up onto the side so I can see it if I'm holding my pliers down like that. And here's what we do. This is my cutting board with ruler gradations. These are 1/2-inch gradations. Position the sharp curve that will become the bottom of the heart against a line on the cutting board, like you see me do in the video. Then, while holding the wire firmly, wrap it around the large jaw of the plier, forming the large curve at the top of the heart. To make the next bend, I position my wire against the 1/2-inch mark on the cutting board and line the heart up with it. Next, I place the smaller cylinder of the pliers into the heart at the 1/2-inch mark. And when I'm sure that everything is lined up, I begin to bend the wire around the smaller cylinder, forming the smaller curve on the top part of the heart. Having made one heart, I'm beginning work on the second heart. See how I have that lined up? With the bail making pliers, I position the large cylinder on the inside of the heart. And I'm lining up the inscribed line against the 1/2-inch mark. The marks on the pliers enables you to place the pliers exactly where you need them to make the curve. And I'm bending it around the cylinder of the plier. See? There we go. Now, I reposition it. To form the next curve, I'm going to use the smaller jaw of the plier. Once again, I'm measuring a 1/2 inch from the bottom of the heart to where I want to make the bend. I position my bail making plier against that 1/2 inch mark. Hold everything tightly, bend the wire. Now we have the basic shape for 2 hearts. That'll make a nice pair of heart earrings. The next thing to do is to make the hanging unit that the heart will be hung from. To do this, using the basic handmade tool, insert the silver into the hole and let it extend a couple of inches, because you're going to need a little excess wire to be able to make this hanging unit that the earring dangles from. So just about like that. What is that? 1 inch? Okay, let's go with specific measurements. 1.5 inches. At the 1.5 inch mark, I bend it over like that now, and I begin to form my coil. If the wire wants to slide out and you have a hard time holding it in, you can take a toothpick and insert it into that little hole and wedge it, press down. It'll wedge the wire and hold it firmly in place. Why am I doing that? I'm doing that because this enables me to get a good grip. Next, wrap the wire around the upright piece of metal, 2-3 times around. What I also like to do is take a second dowel with a hole drilled into it and compress the coil I just made to make sure it's nice and tight. I'm going to press the pliers firmly up against that coil, snip it free from the wire. Remove the toothpick, remove the coil. I point this out so many times. You will always have that little flare out of wire. So what I do is take my flush cutters, count 1, 2.5 times down, and snip. Ah, good. We have a coil attached to an upright that eventually I'll end with an eye loop. So, lining it up with my ruler, position my round nose at the 1/2 inch mark, bend it at a 45-degree angle. Same thing with the other one. Position it at the 1/2 inch mark and bend it at a 45-degree angle. Having done that, reposition the round nose pliers and create the centered loop. Hold the loop firmly with the curved nose pliers. Why do I like curved nose pliers for this? Because it enables me to see what I'm doing. Now I grab the bottom part of the wire and wrap it around. 1-2 times around is good. Trim off the excess. And to get rid of that little piece of wire that flares out, I want to work it in. Squeeze the coil around and around, burnishing the silver, polishing the metal, and flattening everything out. Then I always give it the test. I rub my fingers around it, make sure nothing is sticking out, and nothing is. The next thing that I do is attach the hanging units, which are made up of an eye and a coil. I attach them to the earring. And it's this coil that locks the form in place. At this point, we need to trim off this excess wire. There's too much here. Positioning my earrings against my cutting board, I trim the excess flush with the bottom of the earring. The idea is to have tiny little spirals in the center of the earring, not large spirals. The purpose of the spiral is to hold everything together. Now I'm determining which length of wire belongs to what. And this length here belongs to this part of the heart. So I'm going to spiral this into that area. It's easy to mix them up. You got to pay attention to what you're doing here with my curved nose. That's it. Tiny little spiral. Its purpose is to lock the heart shape in place. Let's do it again. I began the spiral with my round nose pliers. Continue with the curved nose. Before I go any further with the earrings, by attaching the ear wires, I need to work the basic earring shape with the chasing hammer. So, position it on a steel block and gently tap the perimeter of the heart, but avoid hitting the coil and spiraled area. It might be easier to use the ball-peen hammer rather than the chasing hammer. You can really get in there with the small ball-peen hammer. Very happy with that. The forging imparts a beautiful handmade look to the flattened wire. Both hearts are finished. Now it's time to attach the ear wires. And I made myself a pair of sterling silver. So we're ready to go. Position the earring on the ear wire. Make sure it's facing the direction you want. I firmly grasp the opened loop with my bent nose pliers. Then hold the end of the wire with a pair of chain link pliers, and I wrap my wire around twice. That's enough. That is extremely secure. It's not going to come apart. With my flush cutters, I press it flush up against the coil that I just made and trim off that excess. With my chain link pliers, the little piece of wire that always sticks up. Then I work down, and this action on sterling silver results in a nice surface of polished metal. The earrings are finished. They're made out of sterling silver with handmade ear wires and beautifully formed tiny hearts. I had lots of fun making the video. I hope you enjoyed watching it.